Danny Flexen here for SecondsOut. Delighted to be joined once again by my good friend, Hall of Fame promoter, Frank Warren, here at the FURY Chisora 3 press conference. No. I'm looking up it now. There is no 3 on there. Is that a deliberate thing to wipe people's minds of the first 2 fights?
No, I didn't even know. You only just told me something. I didn't even see it. No.
Why was Chisora the right opponent once the Joshua fight failed to come to fruition?
Right, well, we were struggling. You know, we wasted a lot of time on making that fight, and you're going to have to bear with me because I'm going to read something out to you. It's the only way I can sort of explain.
Not a poem, is it?
Yeah, I've got to find the bloody thing now. Right, so if you go, where's she done it? Give me a minute.
Frank's currently scrolling through BoxRec.
Right, on BoxRec. Right, you go down there. If I could ever find it, if you go down it, right. It's Usyk's number 1. So obviously we was trying to get that on for December. Second in is Anthony Joshua. Well, we all know that's history. Deontay Wilder's number 3. Andy Ruiz is number 4, who's apparently going to fight Wilder next. Then you got Dillian White, who just fought. Joe Joyce just fought and's not available. Luis Ortiz we couldn't get. Then you got Joseph Parker, who just got beaten by Joyce. And then you've got Dereck Chisora, he's ranked number 9. So we've gone down the rankings and that's it. And it's not our fault we're in this position. I've got to get Tyson out. He wants to fight. You know, we want to get this Usyk fight on next year. I think he beats Dereck. I mean, I'm not going to say any different. I think, but I think he beats all the heavyweights. He's something special, Tyson. But if he comes through Dereck, then he'll fight early next year against Usyk. And if he hadn't had a fight in between, he's more or less out of the ring again for a year, and that's no good to him. So that's what happened, and we did, and I did. I genuinely believed that we were going to make that Joyce fight. I thought we were so close to it. Yeah, the Joshua fight. Yeah. The Joshua fight, and we're so close to it. But at the end of the day, they didn't want it.
The Chisora fight, how much of that, in terms of picking the opponent once Joshua wasn't available, how much of that was you pushing for Chisora and how much of it was Tyson specifically wanting that fight?
No, Tyson just said, get me somebody. So there was a couple of guys out there. The other one was Char. We looked at him because he was available, but he wasn't ranked, and we are where we are.
How hard is it for you as a promoter, this task of selling this fight? I mean, you've taken it to a big stadium, so you're obviously not too concerned, but it was a very dominant victory for Tyson the last time they fought.
I agree with you. But since then he's done what he's done. Dereck, I'm not going to try and, change my tune. I think Tyson. What do you want me to say? Right? I think Tyson beats him. I'm quite confident Tyson beats him, as I'm confident he beats everybody. As much as confident as I was when he fought Dillian White. But I know he'll come to fight. I know he'll try and give a good account of himself. He's coming off a win, and I look at a couple of fights he's had. For example, Dillian White. There was nothing in those fights. I thought he won the first one, and the second one he was in front till he got clipped. And if you look at the other one against Usyk, that was a very, very close fight. And he gave a good account of himself there. So it might be a yardstick for it. But, Tyson, whoever he's in with, I fancy him to beat him. In fact, I know he'll beat them all at the moment.
Putting it in a big football stadium in the UK in December, that's a bold move, it seems. How confident are you that it sells out?
Well, we feel we're going to do good business with it because Tyson's a massive draw. We got a good fight on the main support bout is Daniel Dubois defending his title against Lorena, South African, who's only lost 1 fight, and that was 8 years ago, and he reversed that decision. So it's a decent card. I think it's going to be, and we'll have some other really good fights on the undercard.
Predicting a sellout?
I think we'll do well. No, I think we will do well. Tyson Fury's box office, end of story.
Having Daniel Dubois as the chief support is obviously a big move because he's WBA champion. It makes sense. But does it also foreshadow a possible contest between your 2 heavyweights or 2 of your 3 heavyweights in the future?
Absolutely. Daniel at the moment is the mandatory for Usyk. So, Tyson fights Usyk and beats him, which I expect. Then he's the mandatory for the WBA title.
What do you expect Usyk to do next? Do you expect him to give up some of the belts? Do you expect him to fight Tyson undisputed early next year?
He'll be undisputed. I think he'll be for the 4 belts.
What gives you that confidence? Is it something he said? Have you talked to his team?
No, we've been talking, but obviously we got this one to get through. But of course, talks have been going on. Talks were going on to try and get it on in December. I mean, and they're okay. His team are okay. You know, Aegis and Alex, they're good people to talk to.
When that happens, whoever comes out on top, do you expect the belts to then be fragmented, which gives more opportunities for Dubois and for Joe Joyce?
It depends what happens. I mean, Tyson's told me he wants to fight Joe.
Okay.
So we'll see where we go with that one.
I'm sure Joe would be up for that as well.
We're talking 2-3 fights, and at the moment I just want to focus on this one, make sure there's no problems, and if he comes through as I expect him to come through, then he goes for Usyk.
Is that perhaps the biggest concern about this fight from your point of view? Is that he could overlook Dereck having beaten him so clearly before?
I think he's. I think somebody was saying. What's his name over there? We was talking on TalkSport, and
Simon Jordan?
No, Spencer. And we was talking. Spencer said, he because he trains at his gym, and he said he thinks he's more mature. I got just fancy Tyson. I can't, what am I going to say? I fancy Tyson to beat him, and I think all Dereck can do, he's got a great opportunity, is to try and seize it. Like Wallin had a great opportunity, and cut Tyson, and you see that fight. I mean, at one stage, I thought they were going to stop it. So everyone's dangerous, but I just feel that he's head and shoulders Tyson above all the heavyweights, to be quite honest.
And on Anthony Joshua, just kind of to clear it off once and for all, why didn't it happen, and could it still happen in the future?
Well, I don't know about the future, but it didn't happen because they didn't want it to happen at the end of the day. I think Frank Smith said there weren't enough time or something. I don't know where it all come from. I wish he'd told us that at the beginning. But anyway, we wasted a lot of time. And Tyson originally was due to fight on the 12th of November, and we pushed it back to this date, to the 3rd, to accommodate, to try and make the Joshua fight, but it didn't happen.
Tyson looks in great shape from recent pictures we've seen. Is Sugar Hill Stewart going to be working with him for this one?
Yes, he's his trainer. He will be, yeah.
And it's on BT Sport box office. 2 big heavyweight fights. A lot of people would say the main event's predictable, which I think is a fair comment. I mean, you never know what's going to happen on the night. But how do you kind of convince viewers that it's worth paying the additional fee to watch this show?
Because I think it'd be exciting while it lasts. Tyson's never in a boring fight. And I think it's all there for Dereck to try and do. And I think as far as Daniel's fight and Lorena, I think that's a good fight. I think it's a good fight, and I think he's a southpaw, and I think he'll pose a lot of questions for him.
What else can we expect from the undercard?
We're just putting the rest of it together now, but and we'll probably announce that next week. But there's some good fights on there.
You've obviously worked with Dereck in the past. Is there any kind of concerns about his behaviour in the build-up? Or on the flip side, do you want him to be as kind of, verbose as possible?
I just want, all I want him to do is show up on the night. That's all I care about. This time not be going to Scott's for dinner before the fight.
And this time, hopefully, turn up at the launch press conference, because obviously Tyson's last opponent just gave it a swerve.
He's on his way, so he will be here. He will be here.
That's good to know. What else have we got to look forward to before the end of the year? Now Dubois has moved on to this show.
Well, we've made Zach Parker against John Ryder. That's a really good fight. That's on the 26th of November. We've got... what else we got now? We've got Anthony. McCann's on there. McCann's on there. Yards fight. Anthony Yards fighting on. I think it's on the 15th on the card up north. That's a warm-up fight for him for the big fight in January, which we agreed terms on. We've also got. Let's see all the fights we've got coming out. We've got. I said Zach. I can't think. Where's the other bloody fights? We've got. Everybody's out. I'm getting old. Everybody's out at the moment. We've got some. We've got some really good stuff lined up, and I think we've got Nick Ball's out again. He'll be at York Hall. Willie Hutchinson. He's come back now, so he's going to be in a title fight. We've got some really good stuff coming up.
Now, I asked Matt Rich this yesterday, but just for you to confirm it, as you know even more than he does, which seems impossible, but it's true. WBO rules mean that whoever wins the Parker-Ryder fight, if Canelo was to vacate, gets automatically elevated to full champion.
If they vacate, they become full champions for the interim title, yeah.
That's a huge fight. I mean, it's virtually a world title fight.
I mean, everything's on the line for these two guys. I mean, I think it's a fantastic fight, clash of styles, and you know that both of them come to fight. I think it's going to be a classic. I mean, we've had some great fights over the year in that weight division. You go back over the years, and I think this is going to be up there with them.
When you promoted Billy Joe Saunders against John Ryder all those years ago, maybe 8 years now, maybe 9, did you ever conceive of the fact that Billy Joe would be retired by now and John Ryder would be back fighting one of your guys for a world title?
No. But John's done well for himself. He's strung together a few wins, been unlucky in a couple of fights. So and they fancy it. So that's going to be interesting.
Tell us why this fight, and he is a matchroom fighter, John Ryder, why was that a lot easier to make than Fury Joshua?
I think both of them should have been easy to make.
Yeah. So, in other words, the inference there is that the other side maybe weren't as keen. I mean, you've already said they didn't want it.
Yeah, I don't think they wanted it yet. Well, they said it was too short a time and all that, but, they should have said that at the beginning. We wouldn't have wasted a month.
Will we see you fulfil certain fans' dreams and share a podium with Eddie Hearn for Ryder Parker or Parker Ryder?
Shows up, he'd be on the table, wouldn't he? If he shows
Has he been invited? I mean...
I don't speak to him, do I? I've got no idea. But if he shows up with his fighter, he's there with his fighter.
So we might actually see this. The lunch never happened, but we might actually see you exchange a few words.
I'm starving. I'll tell you what.
You haven't eaten since, have you?
I haven't. In a worse state than Chris Eubank at the weigh-in.
Talking of Chris Eubank, obviously we've discussed this already on Zoom a couple of weeks ago, but Conor Benn insists he's going to clear his name. We're waiting to hear the results of this investigation that Matchroom talked about as well. What are your views on that? Because it still seems to be something people in boxing are talking about, maybe overshadowed a little bit some of the more recent shows as well.
I agree with you. Look, he wants to clear his name. It's really easy to do, isn't it? Have the hearing, make all the data and samples and everything available, and have the hearing. I hope he does clear his name because at the moment it's a big dark cloud over boxing, and over himself, to be quite honest. And I feel that it'd be. He's Nigel's boy. I mean, I promoted Nigel, and I hope he comes through this. But the only way he's going to clear his name is by them having a hearing and making everything available.
And are you concerned at all about Eubank Senior? I know there was reports that he was in hospital. Since then, he's made a lot of public comments as well about his son and about the fight. Any concerns there?
No, not really. I think he's on tour, isn't he, at the moment?
Is he?
Yeah, I think he's doing a tour with Nigel.
Maybe he's recovered.
Yeah, recovered. I didn't know he was in hospital, no.
Brilliant. Frank, always appreciate your time, and I hope the presser goes well.
Thank you.
Cheers.